Good evening, this is Kuro. Got a tier 10 game in my Z52. Going over the matchmaking, we've got an enemy midway, we've got Worcester, Salem, Minotaur, Seattle, all radar threats or potential radar threats. Gearing Z52 Yagumo rounding out the destroyer threats. The map is Haven, standard battle. We're going to kick this off. We spawn on, call it the southwest side of North Spawn. And this is actually one of my favorite spawns on the map. I really like some of the options you have to work this corner, especially in domination games with the cap here. There's a lot of interesting opportunities to push up and work from this area in on the cap. Um, but the intent of this game is pretty much I potato and trying to recover from that, trying to maintain some sort of control or game plan to help my team uh, defend our base. And it's going to get pretty hairy on this side of the map. So right here, all I'm doing is we've got the enemy CV dance and attack planes around, and I am just, delaying. You saw that I kind of turned, fell back, and I'm doing that so I get closer to the Edinburgh's AA. Yeah, sorry about the bouncing. I've got dinosaur number 2 on my lap for this game. You'll see that later on when he starts to get excited. But the initial CV attack passes, and I go back to trying to push up here on the corner. Kind of happy where I'm at with AA support with a Montana and the Edinburgh back there. For those that haven't watched previous CV videos, general tip: if you're in a boat that doesn't have like great AA, try to keep these ships well within your concealment circle. The way it'll break down is, yes, you're not out here spotting targets, 18 kilometers from these ships. You'll spot them, 15, 16 kilometers, which, they'll probably be able to hit even harder. But the real advantage is anytime these CV planes pop up, you've got support. Excuse me, I'm running on no sleep. In the event of Z52, they can take advantage of my 6-kilometer hydro on top of, the other support that I can provide for the team. So in CV games, don't be in a red hot hurry to really push out there. I spot another Z52. Now this is always a really ugly fight for a Z52. Sorry about pausing it again so quickly, but basically Z52 on Z52, it basically comes down to obviously player skill, but also builds that aren't built into the guns. You're going to be at a disadvantage. And in this case, I'm not running, any sort of gun build. I believe this is a 4-second reload on this captain. It does have adrenaline rush, so it will get better as my HP decreases. But if you look, 4-second reload. So I see that this Z52 is giving me a little bit of broadside, and I just potato this right here. I missed that my engine had broke. I didn't have the ability to decelerate, and this is double bad because I eat that torp in a midship. So right here, trying to recover, I see the Z52 is shooting AP, so I'm trying to cancel my initial turn to try to get this third gun back in. because I've got the opportunity. If I'm shooting HE back at him, I can do, it'll be a reduced amount of damage, but if I stay angled, he continues shooting AP. I will do, I will be able to avoid a lot of the damage. And you can see right there, I basically had just got right on that edge where he was starting to pin me, and started straightening out, and then that was the end of him. Now this is one of the other side benefits of playing closer to support. Um, Take a look at my positioning compared to his positioning. His ships, nobody's really able to shoot at me. I think there's a Yagumo out here that shot at me a few times. Um, but, you know, in this case, he hadn't waited for his support, uh, and he basically chose to get into a fight that he wasn't going to be able to disengage from. Um, there's some lessons to be learned there. Uh, just like there's lessons from me eating that torp. One, I should have hydroed earlier, and two, um, if you're gonna eat a torp, eat it on the bow or stern so it does reduce damage. It's a Z52 torp. It doesn't have a lot of alpha, but because it hit me amidship, it did full damage, and that's a catastrophe. That shot that you saw come in, that's confirming the location for that Yagumo. I'm anticipating on getting radared here momentarily, and I'm looking to see if that Yu Yang or the Yagumo is gonna try to light me up again, and just kind of watching to see who can shoot at me right now. I am kind of low health, and I figured that when the Yagumo popped up, he would be shooting at me. I missed the Yamato shooting at me. I was lucky enough to be able to avoid most of that, or he could have killed me right there. But I'm just kiting back right now. This flank is, to me, it's pretty much lost, and I'm saying that it's lost because these guys are starting, to push this corner. We've got a low HP Des Moines who's being cross-shot by this Yamato. Yamato took another poke at me, and there's a Yagumo out here that's going to keep this Des Moines spotted, plus the CV's going ham out here. This flank has fallen apart, and how do you save this kind of situation? And first off, just gonna pause it right here, and I want you to take a look at the team position. Okay, my team is really massed up here. They're getting ready to push the corner. That's basically going to be our hope to win this game. Now, how to not lose this game is going to matter what happens here. And at this point, there's already some mistakes being made. Number one, this Des Moines shouldn't be in the open water like this. This Yagumo is just going to chase you. If he's smart, he'll stay right outside the 10 kilometers, and they will never have a chance in hell at, counter spotting that Yagumo. And in the meantime, this Yamato is going to have cross shots into you all day because you're not going to be able to win a fight against a Salem and a Seattle. It's just way too much firepower, just even on the HE end of things. So, for now, since the CV has been going hot and heavy here, I'm cheating. I'm playing close to my Des Moines. I want to be able to use his AA, so this CV isn't able to just strike me out, and we need to kite back. And my role here when I'm kiting back is, number one, provide vision on any of the larger ships pushing up. The Yamato, Salem, the Seattle. The second end of things is providing torps. And I'll talk more about that later. But even if your torps aren't hitting, they can make ships do things that are advantageous for your team. So you need to think about that. So what I'm doing here, Z52 is a torp boat. I am using my adrenaline rush to the best of my ability, and I'm going to be pitching RPF torps out there. I want to see if I can pick up a torp hit on this, either the Yagumo or the Salem. I'm kind of anticipating this Yagumo will cut in. It looked like he went pretty wide, but I'm anticipating him cutting in it since things are starting to disengage. And instead of going really wide out here, to cut back in here, take a shorter route, and maybe be able to do something about that. Now, right here, I'm just staying in the Des Moines pocket. I'm waiting to see the CV, enemy CV is starting to strike the pack of ships over here. Honestly, I think that could be a mistake. I think that his efforts could have been better spent getting some of these guys off the board quicker here, and cleaning this up for the push. But it is what it is. Now, what I am liking is I'm liking this Montana starting to push across. And what that's going to start creating is a crossfire between me and this Montana. And you see I'm starting to slow up here. I'm starting to even gain distance from the Des Moines. I'm doing that because, number one, I'm going to have my hydro available soon. So I might be able to set up an ambush on this Yagumo. But two, if my torps are able to force ships to turn this way into me, that will give the Montana really good broadside shots into him. I spot the Yagumo. Now, Z52 is an excellent defensive destroyer. It's probably one of the best destroyers if you're defending a flank. Z52 is a nightmare to try to push. And the reason's this. If you're a destroyer, unless you've got radar, forget it. You can't push a Z52 unless you're another Z52. And in this case, this Yagumo, I have no idea why he's detected so far out. Honestly, it wouldn't matter because I do have hydro. I'm just waiting until I'm detected. I pop hydro, and that basically reduces the Yagumo's concealment down to 6 kilometers. He will be spotted by hydro before he's surface spotted. Although with his build, I'm thinking he's one of these guys that's running either target acquisition or not running concealment expert, or there's something going on. Maybe his captain's being retrained. But regardless, we're gonna abuse it. There's a big HP pool difference. But again, look at my position, look at his position. I have a Des Moines less than 5 kilometers away from me. His support appears to be further than, I'd say, probably around 14 kilometers from me. So that's going to put him probably a good 7 kilometers, 8, maybe even 8 kilometers from his support. And the reason why that's important, these cruisers have really slow shell velocity. They're going to struggle to hit a destroyer at these sort of ranges if that destroyer is maneuvering at all. In the case of our Des Moines, our Montana, these are relatively easier shots because this Yagumo's caught bow on. He's going to have to try to turn out. It'll be a predictable turn. And it's also a much shorter distance. I mean, the distance to, this Des Moines to the Yagumo is probably, let's see, that's 6-1 there. You're talking 10, 11 kilometers compared to, well, this is 12.1 here, so that should tell you we don't even know where this Seattle is right now. Positioning matters. This is what I mean about picking fights on your turn, on your terms. Here I am under 3k HP against a destroyer that's nearly 11k HP, and I'm going to get away with it because, number one, my positioning here. I have much more support. There's much more firepower that's going to hit this guy than is going to be able to hit me. And two, I'm a Z52 and I'm cheating like a son of a bitch and going to use my smoke and my hydro. And what I'm doing, I'm smoking. You see that I reversed a little bit, and now I pop my hydro. And by doing this, I've created this smoke column, just kind of like this, that I'm able to push back and forth in, and you know, dodge shots, uh, you know, dodge, you know, if there were torps coming, if there was radar or something. I've got my speed boost available to try to get the hell out of there, but you know, by doing this, you know, smoke up, and then actually stop and disengage. Yes, there's a window of opportunity that they can shoot me, but I'm creating, you know, 2, 3, 4 puffs of smoke that I can now use to move around with while I've got my hydro active. And you know, with the hydro active, you know, this build has very long duration hydro, and then 6 kilometers is the best hydro in the game. And from here, I'm just managing the range. Just want to keep this Yagumo right inside my hydro range. Not gonna chance it on, you know, maybe the Des Moines has hydro, something like that, or radar. Just gonna use my hydro and get it done. And you see some of the shots coming in, how I'm talking about. You looked how quickly that Yagumo evaporated between the firepower between this Des Moines and me. That's what focus fire is all about. So now that we've cleared up one of the major issues, we've cleared out any destroyers that are going to be a spotting threat to me. We've cleared out anybody that's going to be able to, you know, sit, you know, in a corner of the cap and just be a pesky son of a bitch. It's starting to open up. Yes, we're up ships, but it's still ugly on this flank. Salem, Seattle, and Yamato versus a very, it's basically a crippled Des Moines, and a Montana that appears that he's not really paying attention to this flank at the moment. It's making me a little concerned about what's going on here, but I still have things I got to do. And, you know, this is an issue. This guy should have been moving, you know, 2 minutes ago. Back when the Edinburgh was sunk, this guy should have been moving because it was obvious our team's going to be heavy this flank. He should have drove right out. He should be around in here right now. And number two, getting excited seeing torpedoes on a fat boat, decides to jump on my keyboard and alt-tab me. What I'm doing right here is I'm trying to create damage opportunities if this Montana is paying attention. I am basically staying within surface spotting range of these guys. If they try to even drop off and just try to rush the cap, I'm not going to let it happen. I do flood out the Yamato, but I'm launching torps in their path, and I'm launching them kind of in a wide pattern, and if you see, there's very little overlap here, and the reason why is I'm trying to get these guys locked into a turn where this Montana can punish them. This is what I mean by the crossfire. My torps are locking these ships in this position, giving this Montana a really good, even this Des Moines, a really good opportunity to drop some shots in on these guys and punish them. Now, the other thing, you know, even though this CV is being a potato, it's important to get this guy, give this guy as much support as possible, because these guys can't really cap until this CV is gone. So they're going to be working on this CV. So what I'm doing here, I'm basically just laying a smoke. Now this caught me a little by surprise. I thought the Des Moines was the Midway was reversing straight. He had started to turn, and he's turning to maintain the angle. It's a good play on his behalf at this point. But if you look, 1 minute, you know, this Midway has already lost half of his HP. Um, Now this is what I mean about by making these ships turn. If you look, he's going to have to turn, and when he turns, look at that shot. It doesn't get much more perfect than that. There's the shots. Unfortunately, the Montana just misses. Um, but the effect that I had on that, my CV is no longer taking damage. He's still able to strike, and I'm stepping outside of the smoke radius, and pretty soon I'm going to be back in a position where I can maintain spotting. And if you look, my position, I'm constantly trying to keep a 90-degree crossfire to this Montana. I want to create these situations where these guys, if they have to start angling at the Montana, my torps are going to punish them. If they're angling at my torps, it's giving the Montana a good shot here. Now these ships are finally getting inside radar range on the Midway, and my smoke's also wearing off as well. And at this point, I've done everything I could to delay it, but that basically kept this Midway in the fight, almost a minute longer than he otherwise would have been. Now at this point, I'm in a position where I'm going to be able to spot these guys. I'm looking at the Montana here. It looks like he's finally, really starting to focus this way. It looks like he's reversing a bit. So again, just trying to put these torpedoes out there. Unfortunately, this guy, they both just make a sharp turn. It's actually a good play on their behalf. If they would have continued up here, it takes them further away from the cap. These guys decide to actually start their push for the cap here, unfortunately just after I dropped those torps. And it's going to put me in a situation where, here's why I'm where I'm at. And calling target on the Salem. In my opinion, the Salem's an easier target. It's a much higher citadel. Montana still overmatches everything on the Salem. And I'm just looking to keep these ships spotted, and I'm kind of feeling that these guys are going to make this kind of maneuver right through here, ride the northern edge of the cap. So that's how I'm lining these torps up. Our team is finally cleared out their enemy base. Looks like we're going to be winning on points. But this is one of those games. I've done, comparatively speaking, if you look at it just damage-wise, next to nothing. Even spotting-wise, this is a very meh game. Now, if our team had not immediately capped here, I might have been able to kill this Salem and actually had a decent game. Just didn't work out that way. But my end result was I wanted to be in a position where, regardless of what happened on the enemy cap, my team was not going to be able to decap them. Now, I'm gonna hop back here and just talk a little bit about my positioning. Okay, this Montana finally went down. My game plan is they've still got a long time to cap this, so they're gonna have my torpedoes to contend with. And then the second issue is the smart move. Okay, if I need to get resets, how do I handle that? If they're if they're going to cap this before my team caps this, how do I do that? And these are both radar ships, Fortunately, they're detected from outside of their radar range. Salem has a very limited range radar, so it makes it easier. I'm gonna say this is a Des Moines for right now, just to make it a little more difficult. How I would handle this would be these guys are likely going to, okay, they've killed the Montana. We're going to turn south. We know there's a destroyer here. We know he's got torpedoes. We don't want to hit the torpedoes and be reset. So we're going to make this turn and we're going to try to cap here. So what would happen with me is as I see these ships start to turn, I'm going to turn around and give chase, and I'm trying to keep them visible. So, the Kurfürst here, um, any other ship might be able to get shots across the map on these guys. Um, but again, you can't always rely that your team's going to have a ship that can actually reach out and get the resets. So, what I would do to reset is I would slow to about a quarter speed, um, just outside radar range, and I basically would take aim and shoot the first target, uh, smoke up, and as smoke is deploying, uh, it'll be close. But this ship is has been hugging each other pretty much all game. Try to get the resets on the second. Now, if I don't get the resets on the second, and I need to, what I would do is I would reverse out of the smoke, get the vision again, and I would start accelerating back into the smoke. And just as I was uh, getting ready to enter the smoke, I would take the shot on this second one. And with the way the vision mechanics work, you're probably not going to be seen getting those two shots off on these ships. And under 10 kilometers, you're going to be able to get multiple resets. Uh, and the only issue could be the the uh, the dispersion bug that you guys have seen pop up in some videos that I've talked about. And how I would handle that is these are very precise, important shots. I would zoom in, I would deselect them, so unlock target on them, lock onto them, and then take my shot. For each individual shot that I was taking to make sure I'm going to have the best dispersion possible, I'm going to try to remove any sort of, you know, error or just bad luck, kind of, the game mechanics screwed you, uh, sort of equation out of things. I want it to just be as clear cut, you get hit, everything's reset, I'm out of here. And that would be how I would try to reset this if I was losing. Um, in this case, I didn't need to go that far, but I figured that I would talk about that because I do see a lot of destroyer players struggle with, okay, how do I deal with this reset situation? I see some destroyer players just trying to use their torpedoes and they get capped out. I see some, you know, start using their guns, they end up getting blasted out of the water and their team loses on points because that ship's, you know, points put the enemy team ahead of points and time ran out or whatever. Uh, so, you know, I know that was really intensive on, how to handle that situation. Um, but that is step by step, um, how I was looking to try to protect our cap. And hopefully that kind of knowledge helps you guys. Um, but here's a game. That torpedo early on really screwed me. It happens. Destroyers are high risk, high reward ships, and sometimes you're gonna eat torps, and I figured I'd get a game where um, I'm not I'm basically reduced to a support role relatively early on in the game, because even though I was in a support role, I think that there were some critical things that I did that I wasn't rewarded, um, other than winning the game. Um, but things like setting up the ambush to help kill the Yagumo, uh, and if I would have had a cuter battleship player in that Montana, um, those cruisers probably would have lasted um, two, maybe three volleys, and that would have been that. Um, Unfortunately, it didn't pan out. You know, not everybody. I know my Montana. I'm not a battleship player. I've only got a couple games in her, and that's a really long shot for a Montana uh, player to make, from my perspective. But dedicated battleship captains are skilled enough to be able to take those shots, and you know that crossfire positioning is critical to make their job as easy as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this one off. If you've got any questions, comments, leave them below. Hope you guys are having a good night, and I will talk to you later.